Howdy guys, welcome back to the channel. This week we've got Leon Edwards versus Belal Muhammad in the main event. Before we get into that though, quickly go over last week. On verdict we didn't manage to get a badge. It was a tough night for us. We only hit 2 wins and had 4 losses. Obviously the first title fight, Piotr Yan, tough to not go our way. He was definitely in control of that fight. Lapse of concentration, intentional knee. I was gutted when I was watching that. I'm sure everybody else was as well. And then Nunez rolled Anderson, should have seen that. And then Izzy also just couldn't get his work off against Jan Blachowicz, which was super impressive. Like Izzy said, couldn't have happened to a better guy. And intrigued to see where Izzy goes to next back at middleweight. And the Jan Glover fight is an extremely exciting one to look forward to. My worst call of the night, I'm going to say Thiago Santos via a decision. He looked off, to be honest. He was slower than we're used to seeing of him, less explosive, less power. And Rakic kind of just fought a really sensible fight, didn't get caught up in the moment, in the emotion, and just outpointed him. So impressive there by Rakic. And tough one to take. My best call, tough to find one, but it definitely ended up just being riding Islam Makhachev. I had an interest in taking Doba as an underdog, but Islam proved too good and capped that win off with a finish. So I'm glad I didn't, otherwise we'd be really staring down the barrel here. As for my bets, my betting records, all of that's down in the description. I'm not going to bore you with it because it's making me want to cry. So go ahead and look if you dare. But we're looking to get back on track this week. And it's going to be a quick recap for me. It's a big 7-fight slate, so I'm just going to try and smash these out. Maybe there's going to be a reward in the simplicity of it all. So starting off the verdict card, we've got Eryk Anders versus Darren Stewart. Eryk Anders 3.72 times on verdict and $2.47 at the bookies. Darren Stewart 1.37 times and $1.50 at the bookies. Essentially here, guys, I think Darren Stewart's just the better fighter. He's been in there more frequently recently. Eryk Anders he is a tough guy to back. He has questionable conditioning. His wrestling, although somewhat good in terms of how he enforces it and the regularity of where he goes to it, it's coming from a football background. It's blast double legs. It's big, powerful movements, and he does not have the conditioning to keep that up. Plus, Darren Stewart is really strong himself in the clinch. Eryk Anders is probably going to be a bit larger than him, but I don't mind Darren Stewart's defensive wrestling here. And just, even if he gets taken down, make Eryk work, because come the second half of the second round, Eryk Anders just will not have anything left. As for submission grappling, neither guy much to note. Darren Stewart notched his first submission win a couple fights back against Marky Patolo in a fight I had Marky Patolo in. So that one hurt too. But I'm favouring Darren Stewart here. I think he's the faster striker of the two. Eryk Anders probably kicks a little bit more, but he's shown himself to be very susceptible to the kicking game off the back of that fight with Khalil Roundtree Jr., who now we've seen maybe isn't UFC caliber, as much of a likeable guy that he is. He's just not this level. Darren Stewart, he's hungry. He's wanting to put in the work. He's stayed in Vegas. I'm unsure if he's actually stayed in Vegas this long, but he was trying to string lots of fights together in 2020. He hits like a truck, and I think he's going to knock Eryk Anders out in the third round. That's my verdict play. Darren Stewart, third round knockout at 3.8 times. I think the conditioning plays a factor. I think Darren Stewart stays locked in longer and puts Eryk out as this fight plays on. Next fight along, a super exciting one. We've got Manel versus Matthias Nicolau. Pahia, Manel 1.22 times and $1.72. Nicolau 5.6 times and $2.10. So pretty big discrepancy here between verdict and the bookies. Manel the widespread favourite on verdicts with the popular opinion, but we can actually get some reasonable odds on him at the bookies, which I'm not quite certain as to why. Manel in his UFC debut against Alexandre Pantoja, showed a really good account of himself, gave himself a few chances to win that fight. The only thing lacking for him was the volume, which is what Pantoja was always going to edge him in. But as for the way he went about it, his striking, phenomenal. His defense is incredibly reliable. He hits very hard. Alexandre Pantoja has one of the best chins in these lighter weight divisions. He took a bunch of punishment from Davison Figueroa without going out. He's never been knocked out. So, I feel like some of those shots Manel Kape was landing on him, lesser men in this division would have been slept. He's got really nice straight strikes. He doesn't kick that much, but he's going to have the striking advantage here. And essentially, Nicolau is just not UFC caliber. He fought a stint in the UFC up until 2018, got cut, and now he's back. But he only had 2 fights regionally, both wins, one via submission, one via a decision. But I just don't think he's going to be able to go with Manel Kape here. By trade, Nicolau, he's a well-rounded guy. He's got 4 knockouts on the resume, 5 submissions and 6 decisions. Brazilian, so he's going to be good on the ground. But Manel Kape's defensive wrestling was very, very good. And not only that, his offensive wrestling was very good. Being able to string those takedowns at the end of the rounds against Pantoja showed his kind of ability there, plus the IQ in terms of trying to wrap up rounds. Unfortunately for him, he'd already just lost the rounds down to the lack of volume. But I don't think Pereira is going to have the kind of tricks on the feet nor the power on the feet that Pantoja had that managed to get the edge over Kape. And I think Manel, if he doesn't finish him by knockout, it's going to be a widespread decision here. I'm taking Manel Kape via decision at 2.7 times. I think the value at the bookies we're getting at $1.72 here is outrageous. At one point, Manel Kape was $1.80, $1.90 against Pantoja, and now we're getting him at just short of that against a guy making a UFC comeback that is just not at the same level as these top 5 flyweights. Because I think Manel Kape has it's within his scope for sure to be a top 5 flyweight. He's a very exciting prospect. So that's the play. Moving on to the next fight, we've got Angela Hill versus Ashley Yoda. Angela Hill 1.2 times and $1.25. Ashley Yoda 5.98 times and $3.70. I broke this fight down a few weeks ago before it got pushed back here. Nothing's changed. These girls fought a few years back. The kind of comments I made on that were, it was a closer fight back then. Ashley Yoda definitely had an edge in grappling. Angela Hill came into the game as a primarily Muay Thai striking based fighter without that much defensive wrestling. And that was the only part of that fight that Ashley Yoda had any success in. Her striking couldn't match Angela Hill back then. It's not going to match her now. And Angela Hill has added that facet to her game with the wrestling and with the grappling. I think she's going to peel Ashley Yoda off on any takedown attempts she makes. If she manages to get her to the ground, I think Angela Hill, very wise to it, pushes on the head, gets her back to the cage, stands right back up. Angela Hill could even go to her own offensive wrestling here. I don't think she should. I don't think she will. She's smart. She's got a great fight IQ because Ashley Yoda off of her back is a dangerous customer. Most of her wins in her career coming via submission and most of those wins via armbar. So, you don't want to chill in her guard. But Angela Hill won't. She's going to piece her up on the feet and she's going to win a widespread decision. Angela Hill via decision at 1.45 times. Probably the shortest play I've ever made on verdict. 3 weeks ago, the Angela Hill decision was 1.8. I want to say something like that, and much shorter now. It's a popular public vote. And there's reasons for that, because it's going to happen. Alright, next fight along, Dan Ige versus Gavin Tucker. Dan Ige 1.27 times and $1.72. Gavin Tucker 4.73 times and $2.08. So really similar here in between the verdict odds and And the bookmaker odds to our Manel Matthias Nicolau fight. This fight, however, I feel is a little bit closer. The Manel verdict odds very reasonable, I think. I think we're getting lots of value at the bookies. But Dan Ige at $1.72 here. Gavin Tucker is he's a worthy opponent, you know. He showed us that last time out against Billy Quarantillo, a guy who's just a cardio machine, wrestling phenom, and Gavin Tucker kind of beat him at that own game, took him down 7 times, and just smothered him to a unanimous decision. Such an impressive victory. Before that, submission win over Justin James. He did get dropped in that fight, but he was relentless with the submission attempts, as he was in his previous fight against Sungwoo Choi. You know, Gavin Tucker's come along in leaps and bounds. He's an exciting guy to watch. I think he's going to have the overall better technical striking in this matchup as well. But Dan Ige, he's been around a little bit now. He's quick on the come up, but now he's fought some really solid guys in his last 2. Edson Barboza, where he got the split decision win. That was an incredibly close fight, but he just turned it on where he had to in order to win. And then he had the 5-round fight in his last bout against Kader, who beat him there, but pretty close, you know. One judge scored it, 47-48. The other 2, 49-46. But Dan Ige had moments in that fight, and Kader, although he just got kind of whitewashed by Max Holloway, he's a very durable guy and an incredibly technically proficient boxer. Do I think there's similarities between Gavin Tucker and Kader? To an extent, yes, but there's kind of levels between them. Dan Ige's definitely got that experience edge. I think he's going to put in a really businessman-like performance here. I honestly think his defensive wrestling is good enough to kind of work off Gavin Tucker. Nothing's going to come easy for Gavin at all. And if I had to give the conditioning to either guy, it probably would still be Ige, even though Gavin Tucker showed us that ability to dive into deep waters against Billy Quarantillo. I've got to favour Dan Ige here. The verdict odds, at these verdict odds, I can definitely kind of endow? I don't know what's the word, but if you're going Gavin Tucker, I can hear that. He's a juicy underdog on verdict, and he has every chance to win this fight by landing, his better boxing primarily, perhaps getting to the grappling. But I think Dan Ige is going to put a pace on Gavin Tucker. I think he is going to be the one coming forwards. I like Dan Ige's movement. I like his defense. He's going to kick the legs, work all areas of the body. His body work is extremely good. And then his wrestling offensively is also incredibly good. He is a bit of a decision guy. I feel like Gavin Tucker potentially has the greater threat with finishes, especially with his submission grappling, and then, the ability to find the chin. But I'm going to go with Dan Ige here. I really like Dan Ige. He's kind of proved himself at this upper tier. Gavin Tucker is yet to. I don't want to talk about it, but the Rick Glenn fight a few years back is still just right there in the back of my mind for Gavin Tucker. I think his past performances like that, like he's kind of elevated himself from such showings, but it is just a reminder of how things have been for him in the past. So I'm not reading into that too much, but it's going to be Dan Ige for me via a decision at 1.98 times. Again, incredibly short odds. It is the popular opinion. But yeah, either way, this is going to be an exciting fight because both guys can go the full 15 with premium volume. And yeah, I think there's going to be damage, and I think this will be fight of the night. So anyway, next fight, Ben Rothwell versus Philippe Linz. Ben Rothwell 1.54 times and $1.90. Philippe Linz 2.85 times and also $1.90. So this is kind of a shit fight. I don't want to talk about this fight for long at all. I'm taking Ben Rothwell. Not much reasoning behind it, not much confidence in the pick either. I don't rate Philippe Linz. Losses to Arlovski, losses to Boza, not the worst losses ever. And he didn't lose by, it wasn't a bad showing for himself, really. Boza did kind of work him and then knocked him out, of course. The Arlovski fight, tough to call. Arlovski, he's just a veteran of the game, and he has been getting it done up until recently against Aspinall. But like I said, I wasn't going to talk about this fight for long at all. I think fucking Ben Rothwell is going to knock him out. I think Ben Rothwell could win the decision as well. I don't think Philippe Linz could win a decision. I don't think he's high volume enough. I think Ben Rothwell kicks much more than Philippe Linz, which is going to be a factor here. He's always going to be the bigger man. Ben Rothwell is a genuine 265er. Shitty record, but he's been around the block. He's been fighting at this level for ages. He had a break, and now he's had 5 fights again in the last couple of years. I like that. Mixed results for the big fella, but fuck it. I'm taking Ben Rothwell via round 1 knockout. I like the head kick. I think it's going to clatter through the guard. And that'll be that. Co-main event, Misha Serkinov versus Ryan Spann. Serkinov 1.93 times and $1.72. Ryan Spann 2.07 times and $2.10. Alright. This is a close fight. Ryan Spann, you've got to give him the edge in power on the feet, but I don't like his striking that much anyway. He's a defensive liability. His movement is poor. He's just a really big guy. He's 6'6", and he's a mammoth for light heavyweight. Him and Johnny Walker in there just filled the cage, and that was his most recent fight and his most recent loss in a really weird one. First round, he knocked Johnny Walker down twice and then got knocked out himself. A lot of those strikes seemed like shots to the back of the head, but it hasn't been called, and no contest wasn't reversed, and all in all, Ryan Spann should have won that fight before it even got to that anyway. He had full mount, relinquished that to Johnny Walker, and if he can do that to Johnny Walker on the ground, Misha Serkinov is just levels above him. Misha Serkinov's submission grappling is elite. He does have a suspect chin, but I do like his movement on the feet better than Ryan Spann anyway. And Ryan Spann always does go to the grappling, but he's not that good at it. He fancies himself with the submissions. He'll chase guys to the ground. If he does that against Misha, Misha's going to lock him up. And, Misha can get it to the ground off his own bat anyway. Misha Serkinov, incredibly good grappler, MMA grappler. He averages 4.5 takedowns per 15 minutes in the UFC. And once he gets it there, he's really good at maintaining top control, really good at looking for openings, passing guard. And I didn't really get it out as clean as I wanted to, but just talking about how easily Johnny Walker kind of reversed Ryan Spann from such a dominant position, Misha is going to be able to work Ryan Spann on the ground, slide through his guard like butter, reverse at will if Ryan wants to implement the grappling. It's just going to be a bad time down there for him. And yes, Misha Serkinov's got a suspect chin, but he has worked through it before. For example, in that Jimmy Crute fight, when he locked up a submission with stars in his eyes, he can get it done. I like Misha Serkinov here at these odds, verdict and bookmaker odds. Misha Serkinov's been fighting at the top of the light heavyweight division for a long time as well, for the best part of 5 years. Obviously, he's had some mixed results in there, but the level of competition is there for him. Ryan Spann, as much of an exciting fighter as he may be, I think he is not a secure pick. And for Misha's kind of chinniness, neither is he to an extent, but I can just back him with more confidence off the skill set and then off the level of experience, the tiers that he's been to that Ryan Spann has not. So yeah, again, I've been waffling a bit, but I'm taking Misha Serkinov via a submission in round 1 while the boys are nice and dry. 4.03 times on verdict. That's the call. Fading Ryan Spann. When this fight was announced a long time ago, I was saying, God, if we could get Misha Serkinov at plus money, that is going to be the biggest cash. With him as being the slight favourite, I think that is just still reason enough to be all over him here. Alright, main event, Leon Edwards versus Belal Muhammad. Leon Edwards 1.3 times and $1.34. Belal Muhammad 4.34 times and $3.10. I think this is a really, really good, interesting, well-slated main event because both of these guys are really, really similar in the way they go about it. They like to implement their grappling. They're strong grapplers and they're busy strikers. Neither guy that defensively strong. I'd say Leon Edwards' defense is better, his head movement's better, his footwork is better. But Belal Muhammad is really, really good at trapping his opponent up against the cage, getting in close, and then being quite reserved and picking his shots very efficiently. You know, the way he worked Diego Lima was incredibly impressive. Yes, he was a massive favourite in that fight, but he still had to go out and do it. The big problems I see for Belal Muhammad here is the kind of grappling, that clinch work he gets done, the takedowns he manages to secure. They're not going to be there for him against Leon Edwards. Leon Edwards is the better grappler. He's the better offensive grappler, the better defensive grappler too. So that's a massive facet of Belal's game that is just neutralised here in this matchup. As for the pressure, yeah, give me Belal. Belal's good there, but Leon Edwards' defensive kind of edge, I feel like he's going to get him off the cage more times than not. Make him circle back out, find space, and then work his striking because Leon Edwards also has the better technical stand-up. You know, he's boxing very tight, he's working with boxers. I like his body work. I like his kick game as well. Diego Lima actually had Belal's leg pretty compromised in that most recent bout, and that's definitely something Leon is going to be targeting, especially considering that fight was not long ago at all. You know, I love that Belal's jumping straight back in there. He's giving himself a massive opportunity to literally crack the top 5 from fighting somebody not even in the top 30 a month ago. So career-wise, I'm all for it, but I just can't see the result going his way this time round. Like I prefaced, I feel like these guys do really similar things, but Leon Edwards at a level just higher. You know, Leon Edwards has only lost to Usman and Claudio Silva by split decision. That first loss against Claudio Silva was in his UFC debut. You know, he was a little underdone, and then Usman midway through, and he's just been rolling since. You know, his most recent win against RDA was over a year ago now, but the way he got that done was just incredibly impressive. You know, all 5 rounds, shutting RDA out like that. I know at welterweight RDA isn't as dangerous as he is at 155, but Dos Anjos is still an incredibly game competitor, an incredibly well-rounded guy who will give anybody a tough night. And Leon Edwards just made that as easy as it possibly could be. So yeah, I think this is going to be a fun one. The styles clash in that manner, but I think it's going to be Leon via a decision, like a close but clear decision at 2.07 times. So yeah, it's short, but I feel like that is definitely what's going to happen. Alright, so bet time. We're throwing out a multi here. It's just going to be money lines, playing it safe if you can call a $20 multi safe. But anyway, taking Darren Stewart, Manel Cape, Dan Ige, Ben Rothwell. What am I thinking? I'm going to fucking kill myself if Ben Rothwell loses. And round it out with Misha Serkinov at $18.42 over on Ladbrokes. You know, I actually like all those legs at the odds. the Rothwell fight at Pick'em, probably the most terrifying of them all. But like I mentioned, I feel like Rothwell is going to get the knockout. But if he doesn't, the volume, the size, the length, and Philippe Linz not having a wrestling game just kind of gives him the more paths to victory. And I feel at Pick'em, he is the play. Essentially, guys, for single plays this week, I'm not getting too crazy with it either. I'm just taking all of those legs as singles. So I'll rattle them off. Darren Stewart at $1.55 on Ladbrokes. Manel Cape at $1.72 on Sportsbet. Dan Ige at $1.77 on Ladbrokes. Ben Rothwell at $1.90 on Sportsbet. Misha Serkinov at $1.80 on Ladbrokes. Of all those legs, that Manel Cape at $1.72, I think that is a fucking gimme. I think you've got to be on that. And trust me, if you will, if you dare, because my betting this year has been horrible. So with me saying Manel Cape is a lock, prepare for the worst, you guys. But anyway, we pumped this out. 7 fights, 26 odd minutes. I was probably a bit over the shot, rambling a bit, but hopefully some of my chatter was informative and entertaining at the same time. If you're still hanging around, like, comment, tell me what your picks are. All my socials will be in the description so you can catch that, see if there's any verdict changes to the main card. I'll be all over that. Maybe if a prop pops up that I like the look of, I will also be playing that, and on my socials will be the only place you'll know. So don't miss out. I'll see you guys next time round, next week. Kader.